All right, we're going to dive into what might be one of the most crucial skills you can learn right now: how to manage the quality of the information that's constantly flowing into your mind. And look, this isn't just about getting better at research for a school paper. In a world this noisy, it's pretty much a survival skill. And this quote from Albert Tan, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? For the longest time, we worried about whether people could read it all. But now, the game has totally changed. The problem isn't a lack of information, it's that so much of it is just junk. Navigating all that pollution, that's the new literacy. So, that brings us to our first big topic here, the new illiteracy. I mean, think about it. We are just flooded every single day with data, opinions, and let's be honest, a lot of stuff that's completely made up. Just staying afloat in all of that means we have to fundamentally change how we think. And that change really starts with this one question. For centuries, education has kind of treated our minds like these empty buckets, right? And the goal was just to pour in as many facts as possible. But in today's world of absolute information overload, is that model even useful anymore? Or do we need to be something more active, something a lot more discerning? This is where we get to a new way of thinking about learning. So let's actually compare these two ideas, the old school bucket mind versus the active processing plant mind, and see which one is really built for the world we live in now. Yeah, the difference is pretty stark when you lay it out like this. The bucket mind on the left, it just sits there, passively collecting whatever comes along. It's all about quantity, not quality, which makes it super vulnerable to all that pollution we talked about. But the processing plant mind? That's a completely different machine. It's an active system. It doesn't just take stuff in, it refines it. It's obsessed with the source, the provenance, and the quality, the purity. The whole thing is designed to produce one thing: clarity. So if your mind is a processing plant, then you're probably asking, okay, where's the operating manual? Well, that's where this really powerful framework comes in. It's called the epistemic supply chain, and it's basically the set of instructions for running your own mental factory. So here's the most important part, right in the definition. The epistemic supply chain, or ESC for short, it's all about just two things: provenance and purity. In simple terms, where did this come from, and how clean, how reliable, and how unbiased is it? It basically forces you to become the quality control inspector for your own thoughts. And if that sounds a bit abstract, this analogy makes it all click into place. Just think of it like the clean eating movement. A few years ago, we all started caring a lot more about where our food comes from and what's in it, right? We started reading the labels. Well, the epistemic supply chain is just applying that exact same logic to the stuff we feed our brains. All right, so that's the big idea. But how do you actually put it into practice? Let's get into the mechanics of it. Your mental processing plant really works in 3 clear stages. So here's how it works. First, you have source verification. This is like the intake valve, deciding what raw materials even get into the factory. Second is the refinement process. This is where you roll up your sleeves and actually clean the information. And finally, you have distribution, which is all about how you package that newly clarified idea to share it with the world. Let's dig into step 1, verification. The key here is that different sources have different purity grades. A primary source, like the original raw data or a direct firsthand account, that's high purity stuff. That's the good, clean, raw material. But a tertiary source, like a meme that's summarizing a summary of a news article, that has a really low purity grade. It's been processed and reprocessed so many times, it's almost certainly polluted. Then we get to step 2, refinement. This is the active part. This is where you really process the information. You have to ask yourself, what are the actual verifiable facts here, separate from the author's spin? Am I seeing emotionally charged language? Are there any logical fallacies? The whole point is to consciously strip away all the layers of bias and agenda to find that tiny nugget of core truth at the center. And finally, step 3 is distribution. Because, refined knowledge isn't just for you to keep. The goal is to communicate it clearly and effectively. It's about taking that core truth you found and packaging it in a way that someone else can understand, so you can share a high-purity product with them, whether you're just chatting or writing an important email. Okay, so why are we talking about all this right now? Why is this so incredibly important at this exact moment? Well, it's because the information pollution we're facing is evolving at a, frankly, terrifying speed. And this is the real kicker. This epistemic supply chain idea isn't some dusty academic tool. It is a direct, practical defense against the rising tide of AI-generated content, deepfakes, and all kinds of sophisticated disinformation.
When you can't always trust your own eyes or ears, the only thing you can trust is a rigorous process for checking where things come from and how pure they are. And that really brings us to the final, most powerful point. We've got to stop thinking about this stuff as research skills. That sounds so boring, so academic. We need to rebrand it for what it actually is: essential daily mental hygiene. Seriously, it's just like brushing your teeth or washing your hands, but for your brain. It's a daily practice to keep your thinking clear, sharp, and unpolluted.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to carry around with you. As you go about your day, scrolling through your phone, reading the news, listening to things, just pause every now and then and ask yourself, what is the purity grade of the information I'm letting into my head right now? And what am I going to do to refine it?